In fall of 2023, it was time for another parenting milestone with our oldest son, getting his wisdom teeth out. Now, of course, I've seen all the videos of kids under the influence after they get their wisdom teeth out, so I expected a little crazy. I did not expect what I got from this son. So at this point, I was kind of mobile. I walked with him out to the car from the doctor's office and got him settled in the front seat, buckled up, everything's good. I walk around the car. By the time I get to the driver's side, he's in the driver's side. He had hopped across and he's like, "Mom, can I drive? I want to drive." And he's like adamant that he's going to drive. He even pushes the button and starts the ignition. And I'm freaking out here. I'm like, I'm not very strong. Like, what if he manages to just put this in gear and takes off? So that was our first crisis. So I talk him down, I turn off the car, I get him to go into the passenger side. So he climbs over again. I get in the driver's seat. Okay, crisis averted. He's still begging me to drive and all these things, and he's just blabbering. He's talking about all the friends he loves so much and how he wants to go to school and see them and how he misses them so much. He's telling me who he wants to marry, spilling all his deep, dark secrets. I'm getting an earful, and I, of course, got this all on video, but the thing he really wants is a Big Mac. And of course, he can't eat a Big Mac, but I compromise and tell him that we'll go to McDonald's and pick up a smoothie that he can eat. So we get over there. It's kind of, off of a busy intersection, and we're in the left turn lane with, multitudes of cars around us, heavy traffic. And he decides that it's time to go see his friends at school. So he opens the door, undoes his seatbelt. He's about to run into traffic in a terrible state. So I grab his arm and I get him to shut the door and calm himself down. I say, you want McDonald's, right? Like, stay in the car. I'm basically super overgrown giant toddler that I'm managing with compromised physical abilities. So I convinced him to stay in the car. We make our left turn and we get into the drive-thru, and as I'm trying to order his smoothie, he keeps yelling from the side, "I want a Big Mac." And I'm trying to tell this McDonald's worker that he should not listen to the man-child in my front seat. Anyway, we get the smoothie ordered. Everything's great. We're on our way back. He keeps trying to call his boss. He thinks he's late for work. And I'm somehow avoid him calling his boss. I grab his phone. Anyway, we get home. I think we're home free. He opens the door, runs over, and grabs his bike off the wall. He pulls it off the wall, and he's going to go on a bike ride. And he still has this whole bandage on his face. He's drooling blood still. He's a disgusting mess. And he is determined to go on a bike ride. And so I hobble out of the car and get to the top of the driveway, and I kind of hold on to his bike and say, "Okay, you have to put the bike back. It's not time for a bike ride yet. You can go later." He's like, "Okay, Mom." And he acts like he's going to go put it away, but then he just faints around me and goes down the driveway, starts hopping on his bike. He gets into the cul-de-sac and kind of falls down once off of his bike, and then finally gets back on and takes off, and he goes around the corner. I'm trying to again hobble over to follow him, but I'm super slow. I can't chase him. He's out of sight. So I hobble back to the car. I'm going to go around and see if I can follow him, figure out where he's going. I have a crazy child on the loose who does not have any reasoning skills with his impairment. And so I by the time I got to the car, luckily he came around the other side. He had just made a loop and he was starting to come to, and he was like, "I think I said hello to some people back there." So he must have passed people in his, who knows what they thought when he passed them on his bike. But he made it back home. He was starting to be reasonable again, and I got him inside and laid him down to rest. He slept it off. It was good, but that was quite an adventure. Welcome to the Family Lab podcast, where we investigate all things parenting and home management. I thought I'd start this episode with that catch-up story from when I was on my podcasting break, otherwise known as rehabbing from my rock climbing accident. As I said, we do have some amazing footage of the whole thing, but that's not mine to share. He did give me permission, however, to share the driveway scene. So if you're watching the video version, you saw that during the introduction. You can just go check it out on YouTube, or I'll post that video on Instagram as well. It was a pretty crazy rite of passage that anyway, it's that time again for one of my quarterly updates on the experiments we're trying here in the Archibald home. And you know, all those rites of passage like the wisdom teeth or any new stages are always a very experimental time in households. First, I'll talk about some of the experiments in teaching kids to take care of themselves and the ways that we take care of our kids. And then second, I will talk about home management experiments that we've been trying in our family. And third, I'll talk about some of the experiments that I'm doing with the Family Lab itself. We'll start with an update on my oldest son, the star of that opening story, because I just realized that for some reason I haven't talked about a huge milestone with him, which was being the first kid to leave our nest. We have launched a child into the world, and I haven't even found the time to talk about it on the podcast yet. And when I say we launched him into the world, we launched him into the world. He is now in Cambodia. He's been there since September on a 2-year mission for our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So he is halfway around the world, and let me tell you, that has been an interesting experiment, but a really good one. Even as he was preparing for his mission, I would have people asking me like, oh my gosh, how are you handling this? He's going to be so far away. This is crazy. And yes, it kind of hit me then, but I wasn't really sad about it, which kind of made me feel weird. Like, should I feel more sad? Like, should I be distraught about this? But I was just so excited for him, and I knew how good it would be for him. And I do miss him, but I just knew how good this was going to be for him and what a cool adventure it would be. So I really was excited. And so, you know, to other moms who are feeling that way and feeling kind of bad for feeling that way, I think it's okay. It's actually been great. And yeah, I miss him and I would love to give him a big hug. But here is the experimental side of it. So never before have I gone with just phone calls and letters as communication with this child. And it has introduced a new dimension to our relationship and really the whole family's relationship with him that has been kind of beautiful. So the rules are that they can call once a week. For him, it's on Sundays. It's his Monday, but our Sunday. It's morning for him and evening for us. We talk for, you know, around an hour every Sunday, sometimes longer, depending on what he has going on that day. And we just catch up with the whole family. It's kind of cool to have this dedicated appointment where we sit and talk to him. It's something we wouldn't get probably if he were at college. So that's been really cool. And it has opened up some really deep conversations. I mean, he's doing some intense things over there, like just being on his own for the first time, meeting new people, learning a new crazy language. The language is Khmer. And then he writes an email every week to like a large group of friends and family, anybody who's asked to be on the email list. So we kind of get those two different types of communication. We get this kind of mass communication, updating on, you know, the day-to-day, what he's doing, who he's teaching, people he's met, adventures he's had, which I'll share one of those in just a second. And he's really a great writer and writes these funny, engaging headlines. So it's fun to see that side of him that we never knew. But then it's also really fun to like have this intimate family conversation scheduled once a week. And we've seen him grow. It's been really good for the other kids, one-on-one conversations with the kids as well. But yeah, we were able to like talk about spiritual things. We learn about the culture ourselves and learn about the people he's meeting. We learn about what's hard and what he's struggling with and how he's dealing with that. It's been really great. One of the best moments is when he like called all the kids like, I want to have a serious conversation, and he talked to them about the education system in Cambodia and how desperate people are to get a good education and how they have to pay for it and how they never fake being sick to miss school or never fail to turn in their assignments. They're just grateful for any education they can get for, all the advantages it gives them in the world, and just the acquisition of knowledge for knowledge's sake. And he, told the kids how much he regretted how he took school for granted and didn't take it seriously, and, maybe didn't get the grades that he now wishes he would have. And it was like such a culminating, rewarding moment as a mom to hear him give that lecture and just to talk about like what he knows now. And I think that made a huge impact on my kids. The other gratifying thing is that he's finally learning to cook. He was very resistant to anything that had to do with the kitchen. He did not want to learn to cook and didn't really acquire that skill at home, no matter how much I tried to teach him. But lately, he's been doing a lot of cooking, mostly chicken and rice, and it's been awesome. And he's like, this is actually not that hard, and I actually kind of enjoy it. So it's been really fun to see him experiment with some new skills and just really stretch himself in all the ways. So I'll share just one crazy story that demonstrates what a different world he's experiencing over there in Cambodia. So one of the couples that he was teaching was quite old, and the woman called them and asked them to come visit and pray with her because she wasn't feeling very well. And, they could tell she was sick, but, she was old, and they just prayed that she would get better. So the next day they get to church early to set up, and she's already there lying down in one of the pews. And they're like, oh yeah, she's still not feeling great, but at least she came. That's great news. So they just let her be and went about their business. And then people started coming in. And so, they thought that she'd probably appreciate it if they went over and woke her up. So they went over there, tried to wake her up. She wasn't waking up. They checked her pulse. There was no pulse. So by now they're kind of freaking out. Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I don't know. So her husband walks up and he's like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. Can you help me carry my wife into the gym? So she knew she was going to die, and she wanted to die in a holy place. So she came to the church to die, and her husband, knew that she was dead the whole time and just needed help getting her into the gym, where they covered her with a shroud during the Sunday services. So they held regular church services, and then immediately afterwards held a funeral for this woman, and acquired a coffin and drove her in a tuk-tuk to a cemetery. My son and the other missionary he was with actually helped to dig the grave, and they buried her right then and there. So it was quite a day that they did not expect, and quite a cultural difference than if that would have happened here, which, a lot of that wouldn't have happened here. It's like, do we call somebody? Are we supposed to do something else? But no, it was just pretty straightforward. They just, had a little service with the family and took care of business. So quite a different culture, lots of experiences, but most importantly, he's just growing and learning so much. And it has been incredible to watch as his mother and to get to talk to him every week. So that's a huge experiment. It's also been a great thing for my husband, David, and I, because we both write him letters every week too. And we copy each other on the letters. And it just adds another dimension to our relationship as well. Just reading those letters and catching up with each other in that way. Of course, we're talking about these things, but it's different when you're writing a letter. Anyway, it's been a really cool experience, and we've learned a lot through this new stage we're in. So the next rite of passage related experiment that we're doing right now is teaching another kid to drive. And when I got behind the wheel with him, starting out in that parking lot, the first thought was, I can't believe I have to do this 3 more times. It's frankly quite a terrifying experience, especially those first couple weeks where they are just figuring out where everything is. There's a lot of abrupt starts and stops and, sketchy situations. The first time they go out into the road, you're like taking your life into your hands and, well, both of your lives. And yeah, it's kind of scary, but they have to start somewhere. And this time I caught this new driver and his older brother commiserating about how crazy I get when I'm teaching them how to drive, which may be a little fair. Their complaints were that sometimes I don't quite get words out when we're in a panicked situation because I just like kind of sputter and make panicked noises, which is true. I'm working on that. And they talked about how annoying it is when I white knuckle that handle above the door during the whole drive. And their favorite story is how when I wasn't sure one of my sons was going to stop at a stoplight, I just said, "Heart attack." And they're like, "Do you always announce when you're about to have a heart attack, Mom?" And or are you going to do the same thing if you have a stroke or a seizure? I don't know why I did that. It just came out. But seriously, it can be a scary thing when you don't know if they're going to do what they're supposed to do at any given moment. So, yes, we are experimenting behind the wheel again. We've gotten to the point where I feel much more comfortable, still holding onto the handle, but my sons have actually all been pretty great drivers. It hasn't taken too long to get the terrifying stage out of the way. But here's the difference this third time around. I had that initial thought like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this 3 more times. And then I kind of reframed it. I was like, this is actually kind of awesome. It's this vulnerable time where, you don't get a lot of that with teenagers. They often think they know it all. It's kind of a age appropriate behavior. But at this point, they're like admitting like, I don't know how to drive. Please teach me. They want you to teach them because they're excited about this new skill. Plus, there's a 50-hour driver's requirement in Colorado. I don't know what it is in other states, but they have to have 50 hours behind the wheel with their permit before they can get their license. So that is at a minimum 50 hours of guaranteed one-on-one time with this child who, that gets few and far between when they're a teenager. So I started looking at it as this opportunity like, wow, I get to teach 3 more kids to drive. And, once they get their license, they are not around as much. They have the freedom to kind of be more independent, which is also a good developmental stage. But I have grown to relish this time where I get to spend in the car with them without a phone in front of their face, where they're kind of vulnerable. They're listening to my advice, and for the most part, and we have a lot of laughs. It's a great way to talk about failure and rebounding from failure. Sometimes we've taken the scenic route when he didn't make a turn in the right way, or and we're creating these memories as I teach him to drive. So yes, it's stressful, but it's also kind of good to be in those stressful, vulnerable situations together and kind of make it a relationship building time. So that has been really great with this son, and I'm looking forward to all these 50 hours that we have together. So the next category of experiment that I want to talk about is sleep. I have been waging bedtime battles for the last almost 20 years since my first child was born, and it's literally exhausting for many reasons. The bedtime battles just kind of change over time. Now my youngest is 9, so it's not as crazy at bedtime, but it still takes a lot of oversight to make sure kids are getting enough sleep, and it's really important. So it's worth the effort. But man, it is hard. So bedtime is the same as any other skill of learning independence. With my kids, we talk about it as first you're a helper, then you're a worker, then you're a manager. So when my kids are bedtime helpers, that means that I'm still managing the whole process, making sure they brush their teeth, do their whole bedtime routine, and get into bed on time. And then I wake them up in the morning, and they just kind of cooperate along the way. When they're a sleep worker, that means they're managing their bedtime routine. I'm still checking in on them and making sure they're, in bed at the right time and waking up at the right time, but they can kind of get themselves there. And we're definitely there for all the kids. But most of my kids still require a little oversight with bedtime, making sure their lights are out early enough, and mostly that I wake them up in the morning. But we reached a milestone, and my second son is now completely managing all of that. He's waking himself up for his early morning choir class, and that just happened this spring, and it's been amazing. Like, I can count on him to get himself to school, and he drives himself there. What a relief that is to have just one person being able to do that on their own. So it will happen, and it's amazing. That said, I was still waking up my oldest son when he left, but now that he's on his own, he's waking himself up and going. So it will always depend on the kid, but it is so amazing having one kid that can do that. So that's been a great experiment. But I have another son who's really struggling with his sleep habits. So my experiment with him has been tracking his sleep on a separate calendar. So in the Top 5 Tech Tools episode, I talked a little bit about how I calendar with my kids and how they each have their own calendar. So I just set up a separate one that is just a health calendar for this kid. And I have been tracking his sleep like I used to when my kids were babies, just to know how much sleep he's getting each day, to work on his sleep hygiene, to figure out, what his bedtime routines should be, what's the best time to wake him up in the morning, how to get him up and on time for school. So that is kind of what we're experimenting with as far as sleep. I'm really hoping that this calendar will help me get a more realistic picture, because sometimes I tend to generalize like, oh, he's never sleeping. But this is giving me, real data so that I can, then get doctors involved if we need to, which may be the case in this case. So those are the sleep experiments we're trying. We had a fun experiment, travel. So I'm getting, better with my physical health. So we decided it was time to take a bigger vacation this spring break. And for Christmas, we bought tickets to Kauai. We'd never been there before. And so that's what we did for spring break. And it was awesome. I definitely wasn't able to participate as much as I usually would on a vacation. I did a lot of sitting on the beach and watching them play and surf and boogie board and all those things. But it was pretty magical just to be there and watching and participating as much as I could. We did a little kayak trip, and I couldn't row, but people took turns rowing me around, and we did a hike. And anyway, it very much wore me out, and it took me like 2 weeks to recover physically from it, but I did everything I could. I did take one rest day while I was there as well, but yeah, we played, we hung out at the beach, we explored the island, did some hikes, and I would just hike the beginning and then hang out and wait for them to hike the rest and then meet up with them. So we made it work even with my somewhat disabled state, and it was definitely worth the trip, even though I'm not 100%. So that was amazing. And it is quite different traveling with older kids. Our youngest is 9, so we didn't really have to entertain him on the plane. He entertained himself. There wasn't as much complaining or whining. Everybody could kind of do all the activities. So it was pretty amazing to travel with some older kids. And it brings up a good debate. There are a lot of travel influencers who just say, hey, bring your kids, travel with your kids, let them have these experiences. Yeah, it's going to be logistically challenging, but it's worth it in the end. And we've kind of done that a little bit when our kids were younger, but now traveling with older kids, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that actually, because there's also something to be said with traveling locally with young kids, so that so much of your time off doesn't have to be spent with the actual travel and the recovery from the travel that is required with young children. So I'm not sure what I feel about that. I was pretty intrepid with flying with young kids. I'd be like, what's a couple hours on the plane? Even if they're crazy and terrible, it's still just a couple of hours of our lives. And even the other passengers, they'll get over it. It's fine. But we still definitely only traveled domestically. We did go to Costa Rica one time with our kids when they were quite young, and it was awesome. But we also had extended family with us. But really, I think some of our local trips have been our most memorable, just going up into the mountains here in Colorado and spending a week in the forest and doing things like that where you don't have to spend all your time worrying about logistics. We don't take a lot of vacation time, so it's hard to justify using up those vacation days for the travel itself when you can often find amazing things to do more locally. So I think our family kind of skews toward local vacations. Your money also stretches farther when you're not having to spend so much on the transportation itself. And maybe you can stay in a little bit of a nicer place or do some fun activities that you wouldn't usually splurge for, or maybe you eat out more. I don't know. It just got me thinking about the overall family strategy, and it's worth considering and talking about on a strategic level how much time you want to spend traveling, at what ages with kids, and what you want them to experience. The next thing I wanted to talk about was my morning routine, which has drastically changed from any other time in my life. Again, I'm still in recovery. I have to pace myself. So by the time I get the kids all off to school, I need a rest. I need a break. I used to just hit the ground running, and I'm really effective in the morning, so I would just get a lot of things done, but that is not possible for me right now. I need a rest after the morning rush. So I've started to come home from the morning drop off and just sit down with some crocheting and turn on podcasts or an audio version of scriptures. And I just kind of have a morning devotional where I crochet and I pray and I learn, kind of fill my spiritual cup. And then, if I still need a rest, I will listen to some other educational podcast and learn something about either guests that I'm having on my podcast or, things like that. So I take that some downtime in the morning to just really feed my soul. And it has been amazing. And I realized, I'm kind of forced into this right now, but I could have forced that earlier. I could have made something like that happen earlier in my life and just scheduled in some downtime, because really it makes the rest of my day flow really smoothly and I feel like I'm more effective. I get inspiration and ideas during that time that helps me prioritize the rest of my day and just my life in general, and it has been such a life-giving force. So I highly recommend it, even if your body isn't requiring you to do that, but to start your day with something that fills your cup intellectually and spiritually in the morning. That has been a game changer for me, and it's been lovely. The next category is cleaning. If you've been listening for any time at all, you know that that's kind of a constant battle for me. I'm not naturally super organized and good at keeping my house clean and uncluttered. So I'm always looking for new strategies. And thanks to Joy Williams, the guest a couple episodes back, we are trying her Shine Guides. These are step-by-step instructions of how to clean a room. Her Shine Guides are available to listeners with a 15% discount. I'll put the code in the show notes if you want to try this experiment along with us. But basically, they're step-by-step instructions of how to clean different rooms of the house. And, you could write up your own instructions if you want to customize it to your family. But it has been really helpful so far. We are just starting this experiment, and we started with the bedroom list. So I thought we would start with baby steps and see if these guides work for our family. So I am going one by one and helping each child clean their bedroom using the guide. And it is thorough. It definitely goes to a deep clean of the room, like you're dusting things, you're cleaning baseboards, light switches, all the things. So I did it with my 17-year-old first, and I just launched in and did it with him, and it took us about an hour and a half because it was pretty messy. And we just alternated taking the steps and just cleaned it all together. His room looked amazing. He was skeptical at first about using it, but I think it won him over because the result was so good and it was so much more efficient than he usually is when he, gets distracted. We all get distracted, and having those steps was really great. So that was a definite win, a great experiment. So now I'm in the process of doing that with my youngest son, and he loves it. I handed it to him, and he's been just doing it on his own because I didn't have time to help him this week. And I'll go in and help him today finish it up, but he's already through the first page. It's a 2-page thing, and he says he loves it, and he's been motivated to do it, and was really proud to show me the steps he had done. So that was another win. So 2 out of 4. I'll keep you updated on how it goes with my other 2, but so far we're liking these shine guides. So I'm planning on printing off the rest of them to do some deep cleaning of some of the other rooms. I'd like to try it a couple different ways, like just handing one room to a child and having them go through it, or, we're all going to clean this room and these are your steps, these are your steps. You have 1 through 4, you have 5 through 8, that kind of thing, and doing it together. So we'll experiment with different ways to use these guides, and keep you updated on the next episode. So far, it's a win. It's a really good way to keep from getting distracted and to just break it into bite-sized chunks. So thank you, Joy. Now onto the meal planning front. So I use a project management app called Trello, which I also talked about in that top 5 tech tools episode. And I'm working on a little tutorial of how I use it for Instagram. So you can look for that within the next month or 2. But one of the ways I use that is for meal planning. And so I've been making meal plans for a week at a time for each season, so that then the next time spring comes around, I can look at what I was making in spring this year and just have a week at a time already planned for me. I can adjust if necessary, but at least I have a starting point. So that's been actually really good. I've been sticking to those pretty well. But another successful experiment was having one of my sons who wanted to earn some extra cash, earn it by going through the whole meal planning process from start to finish. So I had him help me plan the meals for a whole week, and I taught him some of the skills that go along with that, like using ingredients more than once and things like that, and repurposing leftovers, things like that. So that was good. We made a menu and then made a shopping list from that menu, and then he took it to the store and did the shopping, came home, put the groceries away, and then he cooked. He didn't cook every night. He didn't make all the meals, but he cooked twice that week. And so I just, paid him for all those jobs, and he got to see one system from start to finish. And I think that was really valuable because often our kids see bits and pieces and they don't know about all the management side of some of these systems that we have, or, just what it takes, even to the point of like inventorying what we have as we made this shopping list. Like, okay, we need this for this recipe. Do we already have it in stock? Oh, we need 3 more of those because we're running out, or, so just going through that process with him was very educational. And I think I'll continue to do that especially when my kids want to earn money for things, just say, okay, we're going to go through this whole process, and you can see all the invisible work that goes into this system. So anyway, that was a great experiment. So the last family management experiment that I want to talk about is kind of a caregiving strategy that I've been trying lately, and it's been working really well. So I'm excited to share about it. So, with 4 kids at home, it's still a lot to manage, and they all have very specific needs. It's easy to either let some of them slip through the cracks that aren't as vocal, or to just get overwhelmed and bop back and forth between different tasks. And anyway, I was just feeling a little overwhelmed. So many needs, so many people, like, how am I going to keep up with all this? So I kind of organized it so that I pick a day for each of the children. So on Sundays and Mondays, I kind of figure out what my week's going to look like, what some of the big needs are for all my kids. And I usually try to talk to them like, what do you need from me this week? What can I help you with? What can I do to make your life go more smoothly this week? And, they usually kind of have a list of things that they want help with. And so then on Monday, I figure out which day makes sense for each of the kids. And I just assign them each a day where I'm like, okay, we're going to take care of all your needs. So for one of my sons, that was cleaning his room. So we used that Shine Guide and got it all done. That was what was overwhelming him the most that week. And so as we did that, we talked about some of the other things that he needed help with and, kind of scheduled time to do those. But that was my day to focus on him and dig him out of that hole. With another one of my kids, it was finally getting her iPhone fixed because it's been on the fritz since like last fall, and we just keep like kicking the can down the road, So this allows me to stop procrastinating some of those things that my kids would really like help with. Sometimes it's studying for a test. Sometimes it's just spending time with them. And that's a lot of what I've been doing with my youngest son is, we'll remember to take time to read our book that we're reading together or play a game or things like that. So it's not all work related. Sometimes it's just quality time. And I, plan that around some of their activities like, oh, well, so-and-so has a soccer game. I'll bring the other one along and spend quality time with him there. Anyway, so I've been just really trying to make sure that each of them has a dedicated day where I just take care of all their needs. And it's been going really well. I don't even think I've told them that I'm doing this. I'm just kind of doing it on my own and like picking a day that they're kind of free to tackle those projects, take them to buy new shoes or whatever they need. And that's been a great strategy. So I plan to continue that. So another good experiment. For those of you who care, I'll spend the last part talking about the experiments I've been trying with this podcast because, of course, I'm always experimenting. So this season I'm doing weekly episodes. I had been doing them just twice a month. And it's kind of kicking my butt to do them weekly, but I kind of like the concentration of it, and it's been really fun. It's just been a lot of work. So have I been promoting them on social media? No, there are some that I still have not even announced on social media. But this season will end at the end of this month, at the end of April, because May is crazy. And I'll take a break from May to July and resume again in August. That's my plan, to do weekly episodes again. So I'm hoping to get ahead. So with that in mind, I am doing a survey for any listeners who are willing to do that. The link is in the show notes. And I would really appreciate some feedback on if you like this format, if you like the new structure of the Family Lab podcasts, and if you like the top 5 episodes. If you like the book club, I'm probably not going to continue the book club because I haven't gotten as much interest there, but I would love to actually hear your opinions. So I'm not doing a book club this month, but if people really want me to bring it back, I can do that. So it's all an experiment. So I would love to hear what you think. If you do fill out the survey, I want to thank you by giving you my independent kids self-evaluation so that you can go through this with your kids and decide whether they're a helper, worker, or manager in all the different categories of being able to take care of themselves. I'll email that to you if you complete the survey. But I would really love your help as I figure out what to do for the next season, some of the topics to cover, the format of the episodes, all of those things. I'm doing this for you, so I want to make it something that you want to listen to. So love your feedback. I will be doing encore episodes over the summer if you still want to listen. There are so many great episodes in the back catalog that are hard to discover because there's so many now. So I'll be picking out my favorite, especially that are topically related to the summer, and give you something to listen to while I am taking a break and spending time with my kids over the summer. I do plan to be more active on Instagram over the summer and kind of catch up on some of the great things that I've been wanting to share. But haven't had time to because I've been podcasting like a maniac. So hopefully I'll see you over there on Instagram. The other thing I've been trying is this open studio that I've talked about on several episodes. Every Wednesday at 10 my time, Mountain Time, I just turn on my camera and I'm here for whoever shows up. So far only one person has shown up, but she's shown up several times and I've made a great friend. And Ashley, thank you for showing up. It's been really great. She's given me great feedback. We've exchanged ideas. We've gotten to know each other. It's been wonderful. So I actually, even though it's just the two of us, it has been quite a success. So I think I will continue to do this in some form or another. It's just been really great. And here's a case in point. I'm going to share one of the great ideas she gave for summer that is so brilliant. I wish I would have thought of it when my kids were younger. I still may try it now that my kids are older because it is a great idea, especially in the summer when kids want novelty, but you still need them to get stuff done. So I'd love for you to meet Ashley McGavin, my open studio friend, and she's going to tell us her summer idea.
I have a bubblegum machine that I use during the summertime, and I bought the little capsules that you can pop open that you
Like you get at the dentist or something.
that you get at the dentist or you get at the grocery store for 25 cents. And when my kids have their stuff done of the morning or whatever during the summer, they get 25 cents to put in the gumball machine. And inside each of the little capsules is an incentive of some sort, like $1 Slurpee or a candy, or sometimes it's just filled with mini M&Ms, the little mini ones that they can just have an instant gratification treat right then. Or sometimes I put like, oh, you can print a coloring page, or I mean, that's not near as motivating to my older kids as it used to be. But, so I think sometimes I have them actually come up with the incentives and then we just write them on a piece of paper and roll them up.
That is so genius.
And sometimes it's $1. Sometimes you earn $1, or sometimes you earn a trip to, I don't know, the gas station for a treat or whatever. But
that's so good.
Motivating. So they get excited. Once they get all their stuff done, they say, "Can I have my quarter, Mom? Can I have my quarter? I'm ready to see what I get." And one time, actually, I put in a goldfish, and they actually earned it. And so then we went to the pet store, and the one kid picked out the goldfish, but everybody got to go, and it was an experience for everybody to go.
So fun.
It was really fun.
Come join us at the Open Studio. I'm actually going to start calling it Open Lab because, we're the family lab. But yeah, come to our Open Lab, talk about some of your ideas. We'll brainstorm ways to solve some of your problems, experiments you can try. If you want to come, but the timing just doesn't work for you, there's a place in the listener survey for you to talk about that too. Maybe we do an evening session once a month or something like that, so that it's easier for more people to come, or maybe there's a better day of the week or time of day. I would love to get to know more of you like I've gotten to know Ashley. So thanks again, Ashley, and I hope to meet more of you in the future. And that is going to wrap up my spring 2025 experiments. Thank you for listening to the Family Lab podcast. Shout out to my production assistant, Bailey, for all her hard work. And as always, thanks to my mom, Susan Singley, for playing the theme music to my podcast. She used to play this song all the time when we were growing up, and to me, it's the soundtrack of motherhood.